here's for you for showing up today. As evidenced by the sheer amount of life you can see in my face, I cannot believe how underqualified I am to have this phone call. Kids really should be, but so many people need second jobs these days. What did you think they were going to ask about? It's an open book test, basically to keep black people from voting. So have you ever seen me walking up Route 110 and I'm singing to myself? Completely horrendous day inside of the first 3 hours. Have you ever wondered what I do? That's what I do.
Hard Rock Lunchbox.
Greetings and salutations, everybody. I've returned. It is time again for the Hard Rock Lunchbox. And, of course, if you're watching this on YouTube, it's time for the Top 20. It is a very rainy September 26, 2024. How is everybody doing? That's great. Here's for you for showing up today. Well, I have done it again. I have managed to have a completely horrendous day inside of the first 3 hours of being here. You know, jobs in IT are really just so bananas so many times. And I find that in my job, over the many years I've been doing it, like, people just use the term, IT so broadly and vaguely. So it's like, by trade, I am a software developer. That's what I do, right? When I'm not writing music, I write programs. I write them from scratch, maintain them. If you ever wondered what I do? That's what I do. I write custom programs for small and medium businesses. And my main job is, I work for a global shipping company that is part of the largest, well, now because of the merger, they're part of the largest live sports and entertainment logistics company in the world. They handle stuff like wrestling, WWE. They handle the World Cup for soccer. They handle the Olympics. They handle tours like Taylor Swift and Pink and stuff like that. So it's a big company. And I've been there for years in some capacity or another. But it's funny because my primary function there is I write the software that the company runs on. But because I'm in IT, I get to sit in and weigh in on all kinds of things that are just not even remotely my area. But because I've lived a little bit, as evidenced by the sheer amount of life you can see in my face, that I have experienced some things, so I can offer some insight. But it was funny this morning. I was just having a conversation with one of our branches in Atlanta, as a matter of fact, because their printer is just completely going off the rails. Every time they try and print something to it, sometimes it prints 5 or 6 copies of the first sheet and then garbles all the rest of it. And I'm like, well, I have enough experience to know that printers really are very dumb animals, and they really just kind of do what's sent to them. Yeah, there are some smart printers out there, and they can do really fancy things, but at the end of the day, when you're printing a print job, all it really is a sequence of text and codes. Codes to tell the printer what to do, codes to make it print a line instead of, words. That's the simplest form when you're dealing in black and white printing. Anybody that works in an office knows exactly what I'm talking about. And when the printer messes up and something's going on, there's only a couple things that it could really be. It could be the printer, it could be the program that's sending the information to the printer, or it could be the connection between the program and the printer. And I was basically just diagnosing from several thousand miles away what I thought it was, and I just realized when I got off that call, I was like, man, I cannot believe how underqualified I am to have this phone call, but having it anyway. And I know people that work in IT, and I know that they have similar fun experiences, especially when it comes to users. And I was reminded of this story this morning. It's one of my favorite user problems I've ever had in my entire career. So I used to work for, I was a contractor for this company up in Connecticut, who were some of the largest importers of textiles and stuff from India. They did placemats, tablecloths, rugs and runners and stuff like that. And we used to sell we were the importers, and we would direct sell to like Walmart and Kmart when they were a thing, Bed Bath & Beyond when they were a thing, Kohl's, like anything, any major store that you've ever heard of, we sold to. And the I guess she was the vice president of operations, who was actually a personal friend of mine. I'd walked into their Connecticut office one day, and she was like, she came out of our office, she's like, can I see you before you like head in? And I was like, sure. So I go into her office, and she says to me, this is almost verbatim, she says, I don't want you to make fun of me. I just want you to step around and look at my computer and fix it. So I did. Again, personal friend. She was the vice president of the company, vice president of operations or whatever. So I did. I went behind her desk and I took a look at her computer. And anybody that uses Windows knows that along the bottom, 90% of the time, you have that kind of like taskbar, right? It's got your start button on it. I mean, it's a little funkier for Windows 11, but classically through 7 and Vista and 8 for a little while and XP and all that. And Windows 10 is just straight along the bottom. You got your start, you got your icons, you got your other stuff that's going on the right side. All your programs are in the middle. Well, on her computer, it was sitting at the very top of the screen. So I just clicked it with my mouse, and I just dragged it back down to the bottom of the screen, and I walked out. And she said, thank you. And I got out of her office and immediately started laughing because it was such a funny thing. If you don't know, you can move that taskbar anywhere you want. You can move it to the side if you want. You can move it to the top. You can put it anywhere. It just has to dock somewhere. So one of the 4 sides of any given screen. And that's really all it was. It was just an unfamiliarity with what had just happened. Now, how she did it, I have no idea. She must have clicked and dragged or something. But 'cause I don't think you could just wish that to happen. But it just always reminds me of just how much in tech you don't know if you don't know. And there's a lot of things like I don't know. Like I hear every now and then, like when I heard about like you could measure stuff with your iPhone, like I was like, whoa, that feels like something I could really use, because I'm still blown away by the fact that my iPhone has a flashlight. As far as I'm concerned, that is the most important part of my phone. Anybody that knew me before we had smartphones knew that I used to carry. Not only did I have a book light attached to the back of my guitar rig, because most stages I was on were dark and things used to get unplugged all the time, just because of movement. And so I actually had I think it was like an itty bitty book light. I think it was called battery operated, and it was clipped and I strapped it to the back of my guitar rig, so I always had a light. But I also always had a flashlight with me for that very reason, because you can't see stuff on a dark stage. Like Revolution, for example, was notoriously dark up on stage. You really couldn't see anything. So I used to carry a flashlight with me. And then they invented this flashlight that also had a phone on it, and you could text and do apps and stuff like that. And it was a game changer. I think the first time actually I had it, the flashlight wasn't part of the Apple OS yet. So I remember downloading an app to get the flashlight to work, and it basically just turned the flash on the camera like it does today. Well, now we take that kind of stuff for granted, I think. I mean, I know I do. Simple fact that I have a flashlight and a camera and now a ruler, and apparently the new version of the calculator can automatically switch between inches and centimeters, which is great. It said I work for a shipping company. That kind of comes in handy. But yeah, that was my little tech minute for the day. So. Oh, Bill's apparently an IT terrorist here and rotating people's displays when they would forget to sign out. That must be fun. Hey man, what happened on the screen? I really don't know. Maybe you should sign out, is all I'm saying. So let's kind of do like a little light housekeeping and stuff. Let me just make sure I'm actually transmitting here. I am indeed transmitting. Thank you. Light housekeeping. There's a brand new top 20 out today. I did not do any of the AI shorts this week. I just ran out of time. I might do them, but the way things are looking work-wise and health-wise, I'm probably not going to get to them, unfortunately. But I don't know. I don't really know what our viewership is on YouTube and TikTok. I try and follow it. It looks like some things get 400 views and some things get negative 12 views. I don't know how it works. Talk about not understanding tech and still even being in the goddamn thing, but whatever. The new episode's out. It's called Meaningless Conversations because apparently that's all I really have anymore. So that's what it's called. And I talk about the 111 Republicans that are endorsing Vice President Harris, and I read you part of that letter. That's still here from last week. If you thought I cleaned up my desk here, you were sorely mistaken. I did talk about the wallpaper changing on the screen in front of me and how much that flipped me out. That was fine. And the Teamsters and fascism and all that other good stuff. I'm Bacon is my podcast this week. I'm not even going to bother trying to pronounce her name, but they do talk to somebody about their journey from music fan to show promoter, and how they kind of relax with reality TV. There is they do talk about social media and how they ruined our conversation skills. And that's something I'm going to be listening to this week because I want to hear what their take is on it, because I have very strong opinions on how social media has damaged our ability to communicate and basically damaged our ability to be decent people, in my opinion. I mean, it definitely brings out the worst in us. So if we don't have those qualities, I guess there's a floor to just how crappy a person we can be. But I have seen no limit. Every time I am mistakenly or foolhardily or foolishly just perusing Facebook, which I have done in my life, I am just always stunned by how stupid people are. I try and make very few comments. I mean, I think the last time I even bothered commenting on something, it was the post that everyone's like, well, if you're better off now than you were 4 years ago, you're probably illegal. First of all, it is such crap, honestly. Yes, things are way more expensive because of the way inflation works. We can talk about that a little bit if you want. But most people that are solidly in the economy are doing way better. And more importantly, people that were barely scraping by because of changes in minimum wage are actually doing a little bit better. Now, yeah, am I mad that people are making too much money to really mess up my hamburger when I order it? Yeah, but I'd be mad no matter how much they were making. You know what I mean? So the problem is the fact that people need, and people are always like, well, kids should be doing those entry-level jobs. Yeah, kids really should be, but so many people need second jobs these days, and that has nothing to do with inflation. It has to do with the fact that real wages had stagnated for basically 20 years, and that's really the problem. But I'm not here to argue that with anybody else, because there's no convincing anybody. It's like talking to people about who's an undecided voter at this point is just like, dude, I don't understand how you could possibly be an undecided voter. I mean, things have been made so very clear in so many areas. It's like when Trump was complaining that Harris got the questions in advance for the last debate, or their only debate so far. And I think it was Brian Tyler Cohen who pointed out, he's like, yo, idiot, she didn't need the questions in advance. It's a presidential debate. What did you think they were going to ask about? I mean, come on, man. It's an open book test. What do you think they're going to ask? The economy? The war? The wars? The border? Yeah. I'm not even running. I knew what they were going to ask. So it's just really funny. So when you hear undecided voters, my immediate thought is what are we even talking? What is undecided? You either, I guess if you feel absolutely nothing on absolutely every issue, yeah, then you can be decided. But at that point, it's less undecided and more you just don't care. And if you want to talk about who doesn't really need to be bothered to, who we don't need to really be putting input into this electorate, is people that just don't care about any of these issues. I don't know. And I've talked for years about how I'd love to bring back some sort of in Jim Crow days in the South, they used to do IQ tests and intelligence tests and reading tests and stuff like that, basically to keep black people from voting, right? Because they were most former slaves at the immediate onset after the immediate onset of elections after the Civil War. They were illiterate because they had been slaves. White, I don't know what you know about slavery, but white slave owners were very rarely educating their slaves. Education is knowledge. Knowledge is power. Blah, blah, blah. You see how you start to repress an entire people. And if you don't believe me, just check out anything that's going on in those countries in the Middle East, like Afghanistan, where they keep oppressing and repressing women further and further and further. They're trying to keep them stupid and dependent, which is a great thing if you are in charge. It's a horrible thing if you're any kind of human. But again, they didn't ask me. You didn't ask me. So I'm going to just shut up. But they are talking about secrets to better conversations revealed on Bacon's My Podcast. So check that out if you want. I'm going to check it out this week. Maybe I'll have some commentary to add about it next week. We do have our show that I basically completely forgot was coming up so fast. I thought it was in 2 weeks. It's actually in 1 week. It's 1 week from tomorrow. It's our last show for a little while. It's going to be at Mr. Beery's, so it's going to be fun. It's going to be us, all new episode, Pathmaker and the Space Turtles. It's going to be a fun show. I definitely encourage you to come down. Those are always very chill for us. I think it's going to be fun. Our last show of the year is going to be in December. I don't know that I'm going to book anything between then and now, to be perfectly honest with you. I'm trying to finish what's going on in the studio, and I'll talk about that in just a little bit. So I want to kind of take some time and focus on that. But also, like, I'm just super burnt out. I really wanted to put together like an unplugged night, like in November, just to kind of have that to do, because I really do like them, but I realize I don't even have the time to prep for what I'm doing now. So I think I want to take some time maybe off and, work on some new songs, work on some new music. It's very cathartic for me to do those kinds of things, and I just haven't been in the right headspace for it. And I'm not sure if it's only time. I could have all the time in the world and not be able to do this, but I think it's worth doing, and having, 2 shows 2 months apart isn't horrible. I mean, to be perfectly honest, it's not what I want to be doing as a musician and as a performer, and certainly in this band. I want the band to be playing an awful lot more, but we just aren't. It falls to me to do all the booking, and that's unfortunate, and because of everything I've been going through, physically, time-wise, and mentally, and stuff like that, like I really haven't had the opportunity, but more important than that, I really haven't had the drive to do it, and that, to me, is the bigger loss. Like, that is the thing that kind of just wakes me up, and I've said, like in therapy and in other conversations, that when you have something that is just so tied to your identity, and not by others. I mean, I would imagine most people, when they think of me, they think of me unless they're, like my birth family or whatever, but because they knew me before I played. But like, I would imagine that most people that we know, like in our circles, all of us, the first thing you think of me is that, I'm a musician, or you think of the band, or whatever. I mean, I don't even think that, like, radio show host is in the top 5. So I don't know. I mean, you never truly know what people think of you, right? You can tell them all day, but you got to believe them or don't. But I would imagine that is so identified with who I am. I mean, like, I don't know many people at this point that did not know me before I was in a band. I don't even know that many people at this point that didn't know me when I was in Revel 9. I've been in Revel 9 so long. Or, there are definitely some G. Davy people around. But that's, that's the early 2000s at that point. Like, it's just, it's been a long run. So it's kind of like who I am, like, definitively. And, it's kind of a weird feeling to just sort of, I don't think I want to do this right now. And it's not that I don't want to do it at all. Like, I'm trying to find my spaces of joy while I perform. I will say I was working on the video for Another Mistake. That's going to be coming out soon, by the way. I haven't decided exactly when I'm going to do it. Obviously, it can't come out before the Beery show, but I think I'm going to be releasing that ahead of our Whiskey Rock show, our end of the year show. So that, I might just hold it till after Thanksgiving. I'm sorry if people are really looking forward to it. I will say the video I put together for it, it's really good. Like, and I'm not even saying this from a egotistical or arrogant or conceited point of view, but what we did is we basically just built this video out of live concert footage that we have for the past 10 years. And it's kind of like a really cool stroll down memory lane. And it's just, it was nice to see, but for me, as I was kind of building it, I'm just seeing these moments, like, just such different periods in this career with this band. And it's just like, man, I'd really love to have some of that back. And, but it comes from inside. Like, I can't just will it to be. Like, I mean, I can fake it all day, but the reality is, if I'm not enjoying myself, I'm not enjoying myself. So I've got to try and find a way to get that back if I'm going to continue, because I don't really see any reason to continue if I'm not happy doing it. I mean, I don't mind pushing through if I'm in a phase, but if I'm really at the end of this thing, like that's something I got to sit and consider. It just doesn't feel like an end. It feels like a pause, like a break. And I've just got to, I guess, spend some time figuring that out. I don't really know what else to say about that. I wasn't planning on talking about any of that. It was interesting, though. I am still liking the recording process. And I will say this last time out, for these 3 songs that we're working on currently, it's been an interesting process for me, because I turn more and more over to Dave Caggiano in a production role because I'm respectful of his ideas, and I'm interested in the directions he wants to go and try. And I was just saying, I was there on Tuesday, and I was just saying that, I feel like by the time we get to him now, like, I have done so much production work and so much editing and so much rewriting that I'm almost entirely out of ideas on my own with what to do with the song next. So one of the things that he's able to do is he comes up with new ideas. Sometimes they're just ideas, and I just do them because they're good ideas. Sometimes they're ideas that lead us both to other ideas. It's inspiration for me. And one of the things we've been doing this time out that is different than every other Revel 9 record is that we are really focusing on the vocal performances and the vocal arrangements and orchestration. Now, I think I can say this without any sort of pushback. As a singer, I've only gotten stronger as Revel 9 has gone along. I don't know why that is. I'm not complaining even remotely. So I'm able to do more and more stuff. My performances are solid, certainly in the range that I work in. I am able to do the job that I'm being tasked with very, very easily. But this time out, we have spent so much time on working on backups and different arrangements, many of which I've had to just sort of write. Like, Dave and I have come up with some ideas together, and then I take it home. And when I've been walking, I've really just been blasting that in my head, coming up with new things. So if you ever see me walking up Route 110 and I'm singing to myself, I'm probably writing a backing vocal or some call and answer sort of thing. And we were just doing this again on Tuesday. Like, we had an idea. He was like, I have an idea for this part. And at the exact same time he was saying that, I heard the same idea that he apparently was working on in his head. And we just sort of ended up doing this call and response thing. And we decided that it was actually very Beatle-esque, which is not something you think of when you think of Revel 9, certainly not something that you think of when you think of me as a singer, but it was fun to do and fun to try, and I have absolutely no idea what's going to make the final cut on these songs. There's a lot of vocals, I mean a lot, and I know my drummer generally does not like that. He is very much, let's just do what we can do live, and I am very much of the other side of that coin, because I think that when we record something and we release it to all the streaming services or press CDs or whatever, those recordings are something completely different than what we do live. And I like that. I like that people come to see us live in whatever versions we're going to do and the energies that come with that. It's one of the reasons when we did the Razorblade Diaries, when we redid it, we did it live because there was no real way in the studio to capture the energy that the band has brought to those songs over the years. When you guys finally hear that record, which will be coming out, the first single will be Another Mistake from the Razorblade Diaries live. When you hear it, you'll hear exactly what I'm talking about, because it doesn't sound like a studio record. It's not supposed to. And the reason it's not supposed to, in my opinion, is because the live animal and the live entity should be something different. That being said, I am sure, and I am of the opinion, and I have the numbers to back it up, that more people will hear and stream our studio recordings than will ever see us live. So at that point, doesn't it make sense, or isn't it worth it to at least try to make something that borders on great? Like if you can add something, even if you can't duplicate it live, and believe me, we can. We put in let's see, it's a 3-point harmony in a bridge that has, so that's 3 voices. Plus, there's a call and answer section. Tony does the answer section now live. Nobody does the 3-point harmony. It's just me singing. Plus, we've added this other rolling part through it that's a 2-point harmony. That's 6 voices in this bridge. There is never going to be a way that we could do that live. Noodle refuses to sing, even though I really want him to get one of those little headsets, because then I would just sit there and laugh at him the whole time. Kaz will sing. I don't know that Kaz can sing a different part than Tony. I honestly don't know that. Usually when we have backing vocals, they usually double up because it thickens it up and it makes it like a really good sounding backup. Certainly all the gang vocals we did for Inside, all that. Noodle sings on that. He doesn't do it live. So I'm hoping I'll be able to win this argument over with the band, saying that it's worth it to do these great things when we can step into it, and not to worry so much that we can't do them live. People are going to listen to our songs. I would imagine they're going to listen to them a lot. And then they're going to probably go listen to other stuff after they're done. Not every song, but most of the songs. I don't expect people to listen to every single day. And then they'll do what we all do. And, like, it'll spin up on their playlist and be like, oh, I love this song. Or I'm really in the mood to hear this song. And then you just go listen to it. That's one of the few benefits of living in today's modern streaming age. You get to do that. But people are still going to come see us play live. So let's give them something cool live. Maybe it's something we only do live. Like, there's a lot of that stuff, and I think that's cool. But it has been nice really just sort of pushing way out of my comfort zone to just see what we can do. And I don't know that we'll do it again next time. We tend to be a pretty straight rock band, so I don't know that we need Beach Boy or Beatles level harmonies and vocal works every time, but it was fun to do it this time, and I did enjoy that process. And I will tell you, I am very, very excited and very anxious in terms of how long it's going to be to roll those songs out to you. The reality is, I have one more session I have to do for melody guitars. All the vocals are done, I think, unless we decide we need something else. But I have one more session, and that'll be sometime after the Beery show, and I'll go in, I'll do the final touches on the guitar melodies. And then we go into mixing, and mixing takes what it takes. So I'm not expecting to have the release before the end of the year. I might have the masters of the first song that we're going to release, which is probably going to be End to Soul. I'm not sure. I might have that before the end of the year, but like I don't expect to be able to release this stuff to anybody until maybe January, because I'll tie it in with the show, so it might be January, February. Plus, we have all the singles from the Razorblade Diaries Live that I have to start dribbling out, so I don't know. So I'm going to be sitting on the material for a really long time, and I'm not even going to have any input on it from like our core fan base until then. So I'm going to be stressing and sweating that until those songs come out, and you know, that's fun for me. It may not sound it, but that kind of stuff is fun. It's way more fun than, you know, getting ready to do a live show and all the logistics involved in that. But I don't know. There's been talk about asking us on to like another show that's coming up, but like I haven't heard, and it won't be the one in November. Believe me, I'm not being asked on that anytime ever. I assure you. But maybe there'll be something else after that. I don't know. It just doesn't come up all that often. But that's neither here nor there. I've talked way too much, and I really was going to talk about my beloved Hurricanes for a little bit, but I never got to that, so maybe next week. They're having a hell of a season, and not in a good way, but they're still pulling it together and still doing great. But let's get on to some music. As always, we start with some local area talent and unsigned talent, because in my opinion, a lot of them are just as good as anything you hear on a national stage, and I guess this is kind of a national stage, right? Maybe? I don't know. It's definitely the Neon Skyline on the box.